Welcome to Build Your Own Crusader! Hey guys, I am back with another Diablo 3 guide. This one is going to be a little bit different for a couple of reasons. I will be highlighting a particular Crusader build, but there's a lot of variables, so I'm going to go over everything that you can do, just to give you an idea of really just all the options that you have with this build. So, it is going to be focusing on the Seeker of the Light set, which uses Blessed Hammer, Falling Sword as the main sources of damage. Now, this is awesome for me for two reasons. A, when they first introduced the Crusader, Falling Sword was one of the skills that I enjoyed the most. You jump into the sky and can crush it. I don't know, it's really cool. Also, in Diablo 2, while I resisted it for a long time, I eventually did make a Hammerdin. For those unfamiliar, it was just a Blessed Hammer base build for the Paladin class. It was incredibly strong. I did a lot of chaos running. It's been so long I actually forgot the name, which sucks. But it was the single largest clan that was based around doing Chaos Sanctuary runs, and I actually ran for them for quite some time with my Hammerdin. So I have a lot of fond memories, except for the name of the clan, apparently. So it was really, really cool. Just puts together two of the things I like most about the Crusader into a set. It's pretty awesome. I'm going to go over the skills first, and then we'll head back to the gear, and I'm just going to do that because you have so many options. So your main constant source of damage is going to be Blessed Hammer. You have a couple options even within this. So Limitless is going to be probably the way you want to go, simply because you can just get a lot more hammers. If you rather, you can go for Burning Wrath for a little bit of extra damage. 320 becomes 330, but also 25% chance to deal more damage over time. Thunderstruck is also an option if you want to go for lightning and just get that better AoE. Even Icebound Hammer, I suppose, is an option as well. So you have a lot of options. Limitless is my preferred way to go, just as I said, for the possibility of getting extra hammers. We will be, of course, using Falling Sword. Now, what rune you go with will depend on what Blessed Hammer you're going with. Since we are going with Holy, we're going to go with the Flurry rune, which is nice because, it just gives a little bit of CC when we do use our Falling Sword. So, obviously, we're using those skills. Akarat's Champion we will be using, of course. It gives us a big damage and wrath regen boost. Armor is also good. We'll go with the Prophet rune for another revive passive, because you are melee. You have to jump in there with Falling Sword, start hitting things with hammers. So yeah, having extra revive, very, very nice. The other part of the set is that we are reducing cooldown of Provoke, so we are going to use that. It also does generate Wrath for us, which is big as well. It generates Wrath on its own, and for every enemy that's around you and use it, you get more Wrath. Again, a couple options with runes here. Too Scared to Run is what we're using right now. It gives a big attack and movement speed slow. Hit Me is also an option for more block chance, try to increase your survivability. If you'd rather the enemies just run away from you, I wouldn't really recommend the Flee Fool rune, but it's an option if you like it. Iron Skin for survivability. It's a 30-second cooldown, but for 4 seconds you just halve the damage that you take. Again, a couple options here. Using Flash right now just gives big increase in move speed, plus you're no longer restricted in where you can move. You can run right through enemies, so it just helps you reposition really nicely, which is nice. I wouldn't recommend Explosive Skin. Steel Skin is probably your other option, just to increase the duration from 4 to 7 seconds. Laws of Valor Critical, wouldn't really recommend replacing this with anything else. You're just going to get more attack speed passively, and then every time you activate you get even more attack speed, and you get 100% increased crit damage for 5 seconds. Really nice. Passives, 3 of them are going to stay the same, and the 4th I will explain why it can change. Blunt is really good because it's just giving 20% more damage to Blessed Hammer. It's your main damage source. Beautiful. Indestructible, another revive passive. Really helpful for when you have to be in melee range. Finery is just a big increase in strength. I will get back to why I'm using Heavenly Strength and why this can change. Well, I'll start now. So there's 2 options you want to have here. There's Heavenly Strength if you're using a 2-handed weapon, because it's going to allow you to have a shield, which you do need with this set. If you're using a 1-handed weapon, you're going to go with Fervor, so you get an attack speed increase of 15% and cooldown reduction of 15%. So, why are we going to use one-hander versus a two-hander? Well, the one-hander you want to use for this set is Johanna's Argument. It gives it's 50% increased attack speed on Blessed Hammer. It is fantastic. So if you're going to be using Johanna's Argument, then you are going to use the Fervor passive. If you're not using Johanna's Argument, what you're going to do is cube Johanna's Argument because you absolutely want it. And you're going to use a two-hander instead, and then you're going to use the Heavenly Strength passive. So, just quick look at the set. Every time Blessed Hammer hits an enemy, your Falling Sword and Provoke are both have their cooldowns reduced by 1 second. Take 50% less damage for 8 seconds after landing the Falling Sword, which is huge because you are jumping right into enemies, so having 50% damage reduction is amazing. And increase the damage of Blessed Hammer by 750% and Falling Sword by 500%, so they're dealing significantly more damage than they would otherwise. We are going to be using all 6 pieces of the set. There is no Ring of Royal Grandeur involved here. So that's that. Your other piece is a Witching Hour belt as recommended. This one isn't amazingly well rolled, but you get attack speed and crit damage from it, so very, very helpful. The reason why you have to be using a shield is Guard of Johanna. Again, mine is not super well rolled, but you get the idea. The passive is, or the unique effect rather, is the big deal. It is going to increase the damage of Blessed Hammer from between 200 to 250% for the first 3 enemies it hits. Huge deal. Definitely need that. Other than that, you just want an amulet, strength, crit damage, crit chance, socket. You could replace strength with holy damage if you prefer, or whatever element you are choosing to use. As far as rings and the bracers, this is where things get interesting. And this is going to involve the Kanai's Cube as well. The recommended setup is you're going to go with a Unity ring. This is probably the way you want it rolled: crit damage, crit chance, elite damage, and socket. You're going to go with a convention of elements. Again, strength, crit damage, crit chance, socket. These are important for the rings. The bracers, right now you say just have, random ancient bracers, holy damage, strength, vit, crit chance. So here's where the Kanai's Cube comes in. Your bracers are going to be Gabriel's Van Braces. You can either use those or you can cube them as I've done. You see the unique effect of it: when your Blessed Hammer hits 3 or fewer enemies, it refunds the entire Wrath cost. That is a roll between, I believe, 70% to 100% if you're just using the item, but of course if you cube it, you just get the maximum effect. For here, you're also going to be cubing Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac. This is actually huge. I tried playing with the set before I cubed this ring, and it was kind of rough. My cooldowns were a little iffy. Once you cube this thing, it makes things so much better. You have your abilities available so much more often. With a slow two-hander, you're not getting 100% uptime on Akarat's Champion, but it's up a lot more often than it would have been otherwise. Having this cubed is absolutely amazing. Now, you'll notice I talked about Johanna's Argument, and I don't have it equipped or cubed. The reason for that is I don't have it. As you know, trying to get a specific weapon can be a pain in the butt sometimes. Honestly, I've spent some time with this build. I've been playing around with a lot of different options for it. I haven't been lucky enough to get the Johanna's Argument yet. But as I said, your options are either cube Johanna's Argument and use a strong two-hander, which is, I'm just using a random, just high damage weapon. Or you use Johanna's Argument, cube something like the Furnace, and then again you will have to switch your passive based on whether you're using one-hander or a two-hander. So you might be thinking, so why are you showing this build without Johanna's Argument? I'm showing it without Johanna's Argument to prove that it's actually a really strong build, even if you're not completely geared for it. My other videos have been greater with 50 plus. This won't be quite that. You definitely can do 50 plus once you do have the correct weapon. Once you do have the right gear, even if it's not amazingly well rolled, if you do have it, you easily will do 50 plus. But I am here to show you that even without it, you're going to be able to do it anyway. Quick look at the Paragon points before we get into everything else. Core is easy, just make sure you have 25% move speed. Everything else is to strength. You could do a little vid if you want, but you really shouldn't have to. Offense, crit damage, crit chance, max first. Now, it gets actually interesting between attack speed and cooldown reduction because you almost have a catch-22. If you're using the one-handed weapon, you have a lot more attack speed. So you don't necessarily need to have attack speed in your Paragon points because your attack speed is very high anyway, especially if you're doing the Johanna's Argument, your Blessed Hammer gets even more attack speed. So you would think, okay, go to cooldown reduction. Because of Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac, with more attack speed, your hammers are hitting more often, which means your skills are coming off of cooldown a lot more often. So you don't actually need the cooldown reduction. Whereas with the slow two-hander, you'd want attack speed, but you're not proccing Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac as often, so you're not getting as much cooldown reduction. So it's kind of up to you which you're going to favor. Based on one-hander or two-hander, it's actually really weird between these two. I've gone for the CDR just because I want Akrat's Champion up as often as possible. So that's why I've gone for the CDR build, but yeah, you can really pick between either of these which you're prioritizing. If you're lucky enough to be Paragon 800, you don't need to make the choice, and you can just do both. For the defense tree, resist all, then armor, then life percent, then life regen last. Utility, the resource cost reduction first, area damage, then life on hit, then gold find last, obviously. So there is the build. Just for the sake of having things nicely split, we will be doing a second video to show you the actual gameplay of the build, to show you that even without the correct weapon, it's actually still quite potent. There will be a link to that in the description, so check that out.